Okay, so if you weren't an agent, who would be your favorite team? Because I know you can't be very biased with you being an agent and all your clients.
I grew up in Northern California, so it would be the Giants.
Got it. Fair enough. As you can tell, I'm a Padres fan, but
Okay,
it's
yeah,
okay.
there you go. I love Petco Park, so it's one of my top ballparks.
Okay, perfect. That was actually my second question. What's your favorite ballpark that you've been to?
Um, so I again kind of biased, but still AT&T or now Oracle, so where the Giants play. I think it's beautiful. And I still think I would love it even if I wasn't from here. But I like love Petco. The new Atlanta ballpark is sweet. I love Rogers Center. I know it's not like a popular one, but
Yeah.
I think it's really cool. And then like Fenway and Wrigley are so historic. You gotta love it. Seattle, T-Mobile now or whatever. I like a lot of them.
Yeah.
So.
I've only been to five so far, so a lot of the ones you mentioned, actually, pretty much all of them except for Petco, I have not been to.
Okay, well you should definitely go to some of them. I think I have like seven more to go to,
Okay.
but yeah, there. I usually can find like something about the ballpark that I like. I'm gonna be honest with you. The Coliseum's probably my least favorite ballpark of all
Okay.
ballparks. So you're not missing out if you haven't been to that one yet.
Oh yeah, I was gonna cross off both Bay Area ones first week of June, but
Yeah. Wow.
not exactly gonna happen now. But I mean, it's fine. Um, okay, so then we are very big on food here at Ballpark Vibes. What is your favorite ballpark food?
This is not going to be a popular answer, but oh, I love hot dogs, especially like in the Midwest, like a Chicago dog at a ballpark. I'm all for. But to be honest with you, I go to so many games, and if I ate ballpark food, like there's you can only do it, like every now and then. I can't live off it, so and I'm there way too often. So I usually don't even really eat at ballparks, or like I'll bring in like my own kind of food or like snacks. But I mean, I do like a good Chicago dog.
Oh, our my co-founder is also from Chicago and she's a Cubs fan, so she would appreciate that Chicago dog answer.
Okay, perfect.
So that works for her. And then how did you get into baseball?
I decided when I was at UCLA, I was a gymnast there. Lived on the same floor as a bunch of the UCLA baseball players. I grew up with three brothers, so used to kind of being around guys, and knew I wanted to work in sports, wanted to work with the individual athlete just as an individual athlete my whole life. That was kind of what I was drawn towards, not necessarily being a part of a team. And then I got to know baseball players well. I knew some basketball and football at UCLA, but I think the whole, I guess, kind of process, the industry of how baseball works, similar to hockey, which I do love. We'll consider definitely getting into it, with how they have arbitration and things like that, and with their statistics. It just like interested me the most. And I knew I wanted to work in one of like the big four sports. So kind of chose to pursue baseball, but I didn't really grow up as, I mean, I was like a kind of a just slight, like I was a fan,
Yeah.
casual fan of the sport, but gymnastics took up my life, so didn't really have time to go to a lot of games or be a big fan of another sport. So I mean, I didn't know much about baseball until probably college, and I taught myself everything. But yeah, so that's goes to say, I mean, whatever you want to do, like you can teach yourself it.
Really, yeah.
You
Baseball's
don't need to grow up. Yeah.
baseball's a fun one to teach yourself. I started managing my high school baseball team, so I learned all the stats and everything. So I know how to scorebook like the back of my hand. And that was fun teaching myself how to do that.
Yeah, it's hard. The one thing that I will say, like especially as, I mean, I don't know how it is for a guy, but for a girl, it can be tough sometimes trying to teach yourself the sport if you do want to learn, because a lot of times guys will kind of, I don't know if you ever found this, like they'll roll your eyes at, like if you ask a question, like that's a stupid question. I'm like, okay, I got it, but like just tell me. And so it took me a while to kind of find a few trusted guys that I could trust, that were willing to, I could ask them a question and they didn't have to give me the like eye roll response or tell me every time that it was a stupid question. They just like, okay, here's the answer. You know, like they had no problem teaching me. But I will say, I think that's hard to come by, especially if you're a female and you want to learn sports, because they'll usually like, you know, there's a stigma that you don't, you know, girls don't know sports. And so if you ask a question that they think is stupid, I mean, most questions you ask, they will say stupid, and they don't usually, you know, want to teach you. So
Yep. Yeah. Whenever I take my scorebook to the ballpark, there'll be guys here and be like, "Oh, are you sure you know how to do that?" Like I literally asked someone, "Oh, how'd you know how to do scorebook? I didn't know girls knew how to do scorebook." I was just like,
same,
"Okay."
it's same thing with like at a gym,
Yeah.
if you're lifting weights and guys want to come over and like tell you how to use the machine or whatever. And like I was a gymnast, like I know, I mean, I've been working out pretty sure longer than most of, you know, the guys my age. Just I've been doing my whole life. And when a guy tries to like come over and ask me if I need help with something or a technique, I'm like, no, I don't, but thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, and then what has been your all-time favorite baseball memory? It could be like personal one or like a big game moment.
Probably game game 7 of the World Series with Cleveland and the Cubs. When Rajay Davis, oh my God, you know, hits the home run, and then I like to go into extra innings. That was
Oh yeah.
like, that moment. I don't know. It was like unforgettable, and yeah, it was incredible. So that was a great moment. I was there, obviously, like I was there because Bauer was
Yeah.
playing, obviously. And so just that whole city, it was like came to life.
Oh, I can imagine. Again, my co-founder, she was at game 7 as well.
Okay, yeah,
So she
yeah.
actually took the day off of work to go to game 7. Like
Oh,
she really lied and called in sick to go to
I
game.
took, yeah, I took 10 days off of law school, and my professors were like, what? Like that's not a thing. You don't take any days off of law school. It's not college, like at all, and you can't. I mean, some classes, the state bar will actually not let you like pass a class if you miss more than a certain number of days. So like if a professor wanted to, like they could report it, and basically you can't pass a class if you miss more than, it's like 5 days of class. Yeah, so I took 10 days off, and I had one professor, who understood. First of all, he was a big Cubs fan, and then he understood obviously what I was trying to do with my career, and so like he got it. Everyone else was just like, I mean, they weren't going to report me for like missing class, but they didn't understand it, and I mean, yeah, so
Yeah,
it was worth it
totally.
though. So whatever.
Oh yeah. My professor for my writing class was a huge Cubs fan, so he literally sent out an email right after the game saying class canceled tomorrow. See you guys next week.
Love
And
it.
it was great. Okay, and then what is your most controversial baseball hot take? It could be the game itself, concessions, fans, whatever you want to make of it.
Um, let's see. Well, probably have two. One would be that Barry Bonds should be in the Hall of Fame.
Agreed.
Because
Agreed.
yeah. I think that there are too many. Who are we to decide and be the judge on who was actually taking it during that time or not? And there's definitely players that are already in there that were taking PEDs. So at this point, like, I mean, we keep that in mind, though. Everyone will know that during that era, it was a steroid era, and but these guys were Hall of Famers, and also Bonds was going to be a Hall of Famer before he even started, taking them. So that's one of my hot takes. The other one is, I don't know how much of a hot take it is now or with like the younger generation, but this idea, like playing the traditional way and like respecting the sport, quote unquote, I think is like outdated, and I'm all for the bat flips and the drama, the shit talking, just the personality on the field. So
Oh yes, love that. Totally big fan of bat flips. Which I saw your video of your bat flip that you did. That was incredible.
do you know how many mean DMs I got from like high school softball girls? I felt just straight up bullied because my swing was horrible. I'm like, you don't understand. Like, I clearly spent my entire childhood in a gym and not a batting cage. Hence, like
Exactly.
the point of the video. Like, I'm not claiming to know how to swing, but yeah, I got hated on for it. Sorry.
Oh yeah, no, that was incredible. I wish I could flip like that. Like, definitely. If they literally, if them seeing you actually doing the backflip, like, how would they try to? Like, the point of it was a
I
back.
mean, my whole thing, I was like, listen, I bet you put me in a batting cage with somebody who knows how to swing, who can teach me for a week, and I will swing better, just as good as you are better. I guarantee you, if we do it in the reverse and we put you in a gym and try to teach you to backflip in 1 week, you won't be able to do it. So,
Exactly. Okay, and then this is my favorite question to ask just anyone. If you could pick a walk-up song, what would it be?
ooh, well, hold on, I'm blanking on the name, but I know it. It's a Rihanna, Jay Z remix, but hold on. I
Okay.
want to find. I used to have I boxed, and my walk up or like walkout song was "Victory" by Biggie. So
Mhm.
I had that one. But it's the "Run This Town" by
Okay.
it's the Jay Z like posthumous Zone remix.
Okay.
I don't know if you know it, but
I don't know that remix, but I mean that's just a good song in general, and I could totally set for a walk up. Okay, so that's the end of the baseball in general slash fun questions, I guess. So we're gonna start talking about Luba Sports, your little baby.
I know.
So you spent a few years a part of the silent arbitration staff. How did that experience prepare you for your newest venture?
Um, tremendously. Without it, I mean, that was super important to kind of getting me to where I am today. Aside from the handful of expert agent advisors that the union has, which are their attorneys basically, that there's like four of them, I think, that agents hire to basically help them put on the arbitration cases for the agencies. So the expert agent advisors, their clients are the agents rather than the players, and the agents hire them to like help them with the players. So aside from them, because they've done a million hearings, I mean, I've now no other agent has more experience in a hearing room than me. Boris would be the next closest. With I think so. I've been in 26 hearings just from being at the union. Boris would be the next closest with, I believe it's 14 hearings that he has. So it gave me, I mean, just a ton of experience in an area, a very niche kind of area of baseball. So that really helped. A lot of, again, it's an area in baseball and in the agent world that a lot of agents don't even really know much about unless they've been through it. And even then, a lot of times the union kind of holds their hand through it. So having that kind of experience, being at the union, I think definitely gives me a leg up, especially in terms of salary arbitration.
Perfect. And then what inspired you to become a player agent?
Um, Probably, I mean, I was kind of telling you before that I knew I wanted to work with players rather than than the team on the team side, just because I felt a connection as an individual sport athlete, like with the athlete himself or herself. And then, I had the most kind of connections with baseball players. Knew I wanted to be an agent in one of the four big sports. And baseball was kind of the most interesting. It was the most complex to me. And then, I started talking to some agents of players that I was friends with when I was in college, and they quickly tried to tell me that I'm a girl and I'm not really welcome in the industry, but, being a marketing agent is a great role for women, and that nothing against
Yeah.
marketing, but it like bothered me that like you would tell me. I don't like when people suggest what I should do and tell me not to do something else, especially when I don't really understand why. And I didn't understand it, other than just because there aren't any, but no one ever had a good reason as to why I can't do this. And so, kind of pushed me more towards wanting to do it.
Got it. Which you answered my next question, which was why baseball. So you want it's more complex. And then what are like some of the biggest challenges that you faced though, being the only female that is actually certified with the Players Association?
Um, I mean, a lot of it is, I think, just gaining credibility, gaining gaining credibility. But that also, I guess, comes the root of that is getting someone to give me a chance. It's a hard industry to get into regardless, whether you're male, female. Everyone and their mom wants to be in baseball or be in sports, and everyone loves sports, but that's not a good enough reason, for most people, like for a company, right, or a team or an agency, whatever it is, to give you a chance. So it was figuring out how to get someone to give me a chance, how to convince someone that my gender wasn't going to be a problem, and finding a way to just like prove that I belong here. So I think that was probably the most challenging. Now that I've got my foot in the door, and people are less. I'm sure people say stuff behind my back, but people don't question as much, and I feel like I've kind of earned a seat at the table, and I've made a voice for myself. But it wasn't easy to get to that point.
Yeah, you're definitely making a voice for yourself. Like I've watched all the videos that you and Trevor are putting together, just talking about like the arbitration cases and all the different sides. Like I really love those inside looks, and that's why I wanted to reach out to you. Is because, again, I wasn't really interested in like learning about the agent side. I'm more into reporting and stuff. So like you just putting those videos out there and stuff has really helped bring attention to that extra aspect of the sport that people don't really get to see.
Right. That's one of the things I've always been cognizant of, and it's important to me, is this idea of transparency. Because when I was trying to break into it, and like I was telling you, sometimes it could be hard to find guys who will give you answers to things, or explain things to you. And so without having that, if I didn't always have a resource in that area to explain something to me, and especially from the agent side, because a lot of agents, like, they don't want to give up any secrets or anything. So it was hard to find, like, if I Googled something or I wanted to understand something better, I couldn't find anything on it in terms of what an agent does, like certain aspects of the agent industry. And so I always wanted to be kind of transparent with everybody. And I don't think it's something to be afraid of. I think a lot of men, because that's really who else, the other people in this industry. So I think they're afraid to let people see into the industry, because I don't know if it's out of fear that they will be less valuable, that people won't think their job is as hard. I don't know what the fear is, but there's some sort of fear there to let people in. But I think that there's value into putting information out there. It doesn't mean that everyone can do it, but there's nothing. I don't think there's anything wrong with being transparent, educating people. And I think in turn it kind of helps make people see you almost then as an expert in something, and so that can help your brand.
Yes, exactly. So take us through a typical work day for you.
um
The
this
best
is
you can. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is the hardest part for me is that I was always used to something very structured. I knew if, I sat down in law school and it was like I studied for 12 hours. It was, several classes and that was it. And I studied. A typical day now as an agent, it can whatever I think it's going to be the night before, it's usually nothing like it once the day starts, because it's answering phone calls, emails, a client or, someone says something on Twitter that I have to deal with the, kind of like the shit that they are, getting for something they said I have to deal with. Usually, sometimes it's just like the day to day, or it can be like living stuff, whether it's their leases that they need, dealt with, or it's communicating with the union about what's going on. And again, this is all what's happening right now wouldn't be a normal day to day
Yeah.
otherwise, but right now that's a lot of it's communicating with the union, talking to my clients, figuring out, making sure they understand where things are at, in terms of baseball and what they should be doing, dealing with their leases in other cities where they're not right now. They might have thought they would be there, making sure that they have ways to train, helping them make content. I help Momentum a lot, Trevor's media company. So
Yes.
whether it's with contracts, reviewing contracts, redlining them, it's all over the place. But I usually stay very busy. So
Got it. Well, thank you for taking time to talk to us since you are very busy. And then I do have, so since it's like not typical right now, what would be like your normal kind of game day routine? So like since you said you're at the ballpark a lot, what kind of goes through when you're at the ballpark kind of for your routine on that end?
yeah, so usually, I don't. So first of all, I travel all the time. I'm usually not in one like city longer than probably 7 days at a time. So my like home base, I don't have much of a home base, but my home base doesn't have a ballpark. So when I'm at a ballpark, I'm always on the road. Usually, it's ballpark days tend to be much later because when the player's done too, it's 10:30, 11 at night. You get dinner, and then they are going to bed around like 2 or 3. So, like my dinners usually happen around 11 p.m. Or later. I usually sleep, probably till 10. Get up, work out, and then start getting work done, whether it's phone calls or what have you. And then I usually do work into the start of the game. And then I don't go to the ballpark until probably, depends on if I have like, if Trevor's pitching, I'll be there he's starting, obviously. So I get there on time. Otherwise, I usually show up at like, probably the 7th inning. I have the worst one I've ever done is one time in Detroit. I got to the ballpark. To be fair, I was going to be there early, not early, but I was going to be there in like the 6th inning, and then I had a business call right as I was grabbing my ticket. So I was outside of the ballpark, so I took that call. And next thing I know, I go to walk in, and there was like some guy standing on the side, kind of who was scanning tickets, but he was like, looked at me. He's like, "Do you need your ticket scanned?" Like he looked really confused, and I was like, "Come on, buddy. Like I show up late all the time to ballparks. Like I don't know why this is that weird." And he's like, "All right," like goes to scan it, and I walk in and I look at the scoreboard, and it was bottom of the 9th with 2 outs. And I was like, "Oh, well, that's probably why he's so confused." But no, I usually don't go till later, just because I gotta work done. And unfortunately, I'm usually by myself, so it's not like I'm going with friends, and it's a little bit different, a more different experience. So that's usually those days, and then wait forever for the player to come out when they're done, and then get dinner and a late night usually.
Sounds good. And then you have a very unique model when it comes to like your pay and like how you deal with your clients. How did you come up with that system?
Yeah, so it's not it's actually not a novel idea or anything like that that I came up with. It's kind of what you're trained to do as a lawyer in law school. It's how most law firms operate. They use billable hours. So it was a fee structure that was very familiar with. And I think as I, you know, as I spent more time kind of in baseball and learning about baseball and seeing the dynamic of the player and the agent, I just realized that the incentives weren't aligned. They have these full service agencies that can offer all these things, but they don't usually end up offering a lot. There's no incentive to really go above and beyond. Once they lock in their big contract, they take a percentage of it, and the way baseball contracts work with agents is, so if you sign a guy, you help negotiate a 10-year contract. He signs it, you're his agent, you get that, let's say you get that percentage. Let's say the very next day he leaves your agency, and he goes to a different agency. You have locked in that entire 10 years worth of fees. His new agent won't get any of it. So once you lock in the contract, there's no incentive to really, go above and beyond to do work for your client, because like you've already locked in the fee. And so if he leaves, okay, it's like one less person you have to do work for, but he's paying you regardless.
Mhm.
So just, how do you incentivize someone to do work for you? Well, you pay them, like if they get paid based on the work that they do, they're incentivized to do work. And so I, started thinking about this more. And then just kind of thinking about, um, players now, it's changed a bit and how they're valued. And a lot of teams have gotten smarter. They use algorithms to kind of create the value of the player. And it's hard to argue with numbers. The room for negotiation it's much different now than what it used to be even 5-10 years ago. So a lot of times, like, you'll find players will tell you that 5 different teams offered him the exact same amount just right off the bat, and that's because they just used an algorithm, right? And so what the agent is able to do in terms of negotiations, there's a range that you can negotiate for sure, but it's changed a lot in the last several years, and it's different. And so most of the value that a player is going to be given by a team, he creates himself on the field. So to me, it made sense that, it didn't make sense that a player or an agent was profiting off of value that the player himself created on the field. Rather, what made sense to me was you should pay for the value of my services, not for the value that you've created for yourself, right?
Got it. Yeah, I really like that model too, because again, it's incentivizing to,
Do work.
yeah, and things you're working for your money, you're being honest about it. You talk about being transparent too. So I really like your model. I feel like that's a good way to go. I feel like eventually a lot of guys are probably gonna take that and maybe switch over to that too. I mean, yeah, they're locking their contracts and like getting all that money, but if they see that their clients are leaving to go to agencies like yours who are offering more, then they might switch that model. So I really like that.
Thank you.
Where do you see Luba Sports going in 5 years?
I hope to have taken over a good portion of baseball. Obviously, that's the goal. And then, hopefully branching out into other sports. I myself might not necessarily be that agent in other sports, but I want to be able to have other departments that specialize in other sports and keeping the same model. So my hope is eventually to kind of change the landscape or offer an alternative model for talent representation, and in a variety of sports or entertainment. So
Got it. Then let's see what else I have on here for you. Oh, what has been your favorite moment in your career thus far?
probably avoiding arbitration with Trevor and getting him a deal done for his fourth time through as a salary arbitration eligible player. So it was January 10th or something. I was at the Union when his first or his second year when he was going through it. So I was there. I saw when he didn't get a deal done, he had to go to a hearing. Kind of lived through that whole thing, and his last time going through and being able to he went to hearings the last 2 years too. So getting a deal that was kind of exceeded our expectations too, and exceeded what the Union expected him to get, and just showing people like, look, there was a lot of talk that she's inexperienced, doesn't know what she's doing. I mean, I still got him. I got him. He's the second highest paid starting pitcher who in salary arbitration, right behind David Price. So I would say my inexperience, quote unquote, I don't think it really hurt me. But so I think kind of showing people, but also proving to myself, because there's a part of you that wonders like, I can't mess. You don't want to mess it up.
Yeah.
I don't want to come out of this and letting people down. And so it was a good moment.
That's exciting to hear. So speaking of Trevor, though, he is your most notable client. So how did that, what was the process of signing him to your agency?
A long one. It didn't happen overnight. It was years in the making. We've known each other for 10 years. So in the beginning, it was always, he was always just, however he could help me get, find a space in this industry, he wanted to do. But for a long time, it was never, people would ask, like, oh, do you want to represent Trevor? I'm like, no, that's not the goal. I mean, I didn't even think about that. Like that, that wasn't the goal. And then probably in the last 3 years or so, when I was at the Union, and we started talking about it more, and I started talking about this different model, this idea, and he started seeing the value in it. And he really started thinking about like, what is my agent doing for me? Because he was starting to think about every time the percentage that comes out of his paycheck, especially every year when he's signing bigger and bigger contracts, a bigger and bigger percentage is coming out, and he was starting to think, reflect more on, okay, what is my agent doing for me? Are they really worth this amount for what they're doing? And it just got him to thinking. And so he's obviously a very forward-thinking guy, player.
Yeah, definitely.
He's always like a few years ahead of his time, and he has to deal with the backlash that always kind of comes with doing something different. People questioning him. Everyone did. It's been happening for the last 10 years or more with him. And then you slowly see suddenly people are adopting things, fast forward several years, and they're doing things that he used to do and people made fun of him for or whatever. So it's the same. I mean, it's the same with my agency, how people look at it now. I'm hoping it changes in several years. But he saw it and he understood it. And convincing him, he's very smart. It wasn't necessarily once I had the whole business plan and I explained it, and I showed him I know what I'm talking about. I showed him kind of the how I saw the the agency and this model as being viable, and I showed him all those things. He was bought in. It was his family, who I'm close with as well, that they were a little more difficult to convince, because it's different, it's new, and that tends to worry people. So that was a little bit harder. It was convincing his family, and that's a big part of it. It's not always just convincing the player. A lot of times it's a spouse or family or whoever it is to be on board as well.
The support system behind them. Okay, and then so we obviously know Trevor is your client, but who are some of your other notable clients that you have? Because it's not just Trevor that you represent.
So So right now I actually just signed. I have a professional softball player, Paige Halstead. She was also a catcher actually at UCLA. So I have her, and then I have two pitching coaches with major league teams. But I just for this first year, actually, when I started in the off season, I wanted to make sure Trevor was my only client as a big leaguer, because he's very high profile, he's very outspoken, he had a big contract. Like, I didn't want to mess it up, and I wanted to make sure I could give it, my undivided attention. Now that that's done, I feel good about it. Obviously, I'm trying to expand it more, especially within major league players. But again, during the season time, it can be difficult to actually get clients to switch, just because they've paid their agent fees. They've already signed a contract for this year and paid their agent for it. So yeah, but I'm in the process of expanding.
I'm excited to see who else you get. Also going back to Trevor though, so you do a little bit of everything. So would you consider yourself kind of like his publicist as well?
So he has a publicist
Okay.
that I work very closely with. God, no, am I a publicist? And I cannot. She does an incredible job. Her name is Melvin Desson. She's with Burt Communications. She is fantastic. I could never do her job. So she's a godsend to me. But yeah, and she works her butt off and she does a fantastic job. I work very closely with her, and I'm a lot of times kind of, we come up with a strategy together. I kind of oversee it and direct it, but she knows that world. I never claim or never want to be or to pretend to be an expert in everything. I think there are experts in everything that you can find, and so my goal is to kind of figure out and find the best team and the best people to help, my client, rather than just trying to do it all myself, do it all myself. But I definitely work very closely with all of them, and kind of, I help develop the strategy and oversee it all.
Yeah, because I mean, Trevor, he gets a lot of backlash, so it's like, God, if you were his publicist, I'd be like, she is amazing, she is not human. Because I know
Yes,
there's probably a
Mel
lot
is, yeah,
to handle.
Mel does a fantastic job, but she's been with us for the last 6 or 7 months. But up until I told Trevor, when he first signed with me, I was like, listen, we need to get you a publicist, because it wasn't, I mean, yeah, it's I don't think it's a good idea for an agent to act as someone's publicist either, because, the kind of, relationship that Trevor and I have, and like as his agent, I don't want to be the person telling him, he can't say something, or, how to say something. It's better coming from another party who is trusted, and that is her job.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge Trevor fan. It's just funny seeing all the other people in his Twitter mentions and stuff, and I'm just like, gosh, do you guys have anything else to do?
Yeah, it's crazy. He's gotten a lot. It's gotten a lot better in the last like year or so, but it took a lot of work. It was hard because he was very misunderstood. Because the Trevor that I know, and the real Trevor, is very different than what his public perception was, especially a few years ago. And that was always my biggest issue. I'm polarizing. So is he. I have no problem with polarizing, but if people hate you, I want them to hate you because of the truth. Like, whatever the truth is, they don't like it. That's fine. I have no problem with people that don't like someone for, based on truth. But this misconception that he had and who he was, it wasn't based on truth. It was a misconception. It was, people had these ideas about him that were just false. And I know very few people that have gotten to know Trevor that hate him. It's like just people that, the people that hate him, usually they don't know him at all. And so it was, however the media spun it, he became this just mischaracterized person. And I wanted to make sure that, let's get your image of who you are to the public correct. People don't like it, that's fine with me. But like I want it to be accurate.
Yeah, I'm a huge Trevor fan though. I was hoping he would have came to San Diego in that
And that was
trade.
close. It was close.
It was close, and I was hoping for it. As soon as or the video went viral when he threw the ball over center field, I was like, I want that man on my team.
Yeah, that was a rough that day. I was in Kansas City actually out visiting, and he was so sick. I've never seen him that sick. That whole week they sent him home early, and then he went out there, and so it was a few years ago. I think in like 2014 or 15, he got really sick and got the swine flu or something. It was something weird, and he at the last minute had a scratch from his start, and one of the guys in the bullpen basically had to get hot and warm up and take the mound, and he wasn't prepared, and it was like an inning in and the guy got hurt, and Trevor blamed himself, and he was like, I'm never going to do that again. Like if it's my day, I'm going to be on the mound. And which props to him, because and then I watched it happen in Kansas City. I've never seen him sicker. That entire week he was dying, and I'm like, you probably like shouldn't be pitching. And he's like, he refuses unless there's team personnel physically stopping him from taking the mound, like he will go. And he was like deathly ill, took the mound, and he just everything kept going wrong. And when he's someone, and he'll tell you, if he when he tells a story, he talks about how when he does poorly, it it fires him up and he gets mad, and it makes him gets his adrenaline going. And he said he felt so bad that he didn't even have that adrenaline. It was like his body was like completely shutting down, and then he was so like frustrated that his body wasn't even like getting mad and like ramping up his energy, that he's like, I don't know what happened, I just chucked the ball. And then he realized immediately, like, oh shoot, I don't want anyone to think it was not intended to be disrespectful to any of his teammates. He wasn't upset at them, he was upset at himself, and he had like a lapse obviously in judgment, and he did it. And then I remember getting a call from a scout I know the day he got traded, and initially I was being told that it was to San Diego, and I'm from California, so I was like, oh, I hope so. And then the Reds, I was like, wait, what? Like that kind of came out of left field, but he's very happy there.
Yeah, it seems like he really is, and I mean that whole trade was just very.
It was.
It came out of nowhere. That whole trade in general just kind of came out of nowhere.
It was the fight. That fight happened that night, and the Reds Twitter, they really killed it that night. I remember they tweeted out, a lot's happening right now. Just like that was the only tweet they sent out, like amidst the fight, the trade, like chaos. But,
oh yeah, I was literally getting off work and everyone's like saying Franmil got traded. Wait, what? And then I'm like, wait, hold on. It's not just Franmil. They wouldn't like there has to be something else. And I looked and I was like, Logan Allen too? Okay, because I'm a huge pitchers girl. Like I the bullpen, so like I've gotten to know Logan. So I was like, oh, not Logan too. There's literally a selfie on my phone of how bad I was crying that night. It's the funniest picture I have on my phone. But I mean,
oh yeah, it was a weird, a weird night. Like I thought for sure too that at that point during the trade period, I was like, I don't think he's gonna get traded. And his agent at the time, because he hadn't switched yet, and he was saying that you're not gonna get traded. And I had a source who was telling me, no, he's getting traded. Like there's a deal about to be done. And I remember texting him, and he was in the dugout, and if he goes back and checks his phone. So I sent him a text. I'm like, I'm pretty sure trade just got done and you're about to be on the move. And he texted me back. He was like, that's weird, because like my agent hasn't said anything. And I was like, well, so he just like goes back out, hanging with all the guys. And then I texted him again. I was like, yeah, it's official, with the exception of it's not on Twitter yet. So it's not Twitter official. And he was like, well, this is weird. And so he just like goes back out there, and then by the time the game ended, he goes into his locker, and it was on Twitter. And then he got called into the office by the manager, like by Tito and stuff, and they were they went to like talk to him, and he walked in. He goes, I already know, and they were like, oh well, we didn't mean for it to go down like that. He's like, yep, well that's Twitter for you. And it was just kind of awkward, and it was a sad goodbye, especially for some of the guys he was close with. Just a weird
Yeah,
thing.
that whole trade was just like, again, Logan found out through Twitter too. It was just bad on everyone's part for that
Yeah.
whole thing.
Yeah.
So, what exactly happens with your role as an agent when trades go down then?
You help them make sure that they have all the resources they need. It's a stressful time for them. Can you imagine your work telling you one day that you have 36 hours to pack up everything, move to a new city, and start work? Like, think about when any of us have to move, right? It's a big process. You got to pack up everything. You move to the new city, you find somewhere to live. They don't have that luxury. Like, they have 36 hours basically. They can have 72, but most guys go way quicker than that. And
Yeah.
they've got to, if especially if they have family, kids in school. I mean, they got to pack up everything. They have to figure out how they're, where are they gonna, the housing that they're gonna be at, make sure that they get all their stuff out of their locker. They don't really get a time to say a goodbye. It's quick, and then it's suddenly you're just thrust into this new team, and you have to be a part of it. And they've had several months that they've all been playing together and having this team chemistry, and you just show up and you have to fit in, and it's tough. It's tough for everyone. It's tough for families, but I guess as an agent, just trying to make it go smoothly, making sure that whether it's making sure their family can get out there to, if they need help moving, movers, if you need to hire them to help, but basically just trying to take the stress off of the player as much as you can, because it's a stressful time, and it's hard to do, but you help to the best you can.
Got it. Which, I mean, Trevor is not going to gain trade, but he's going to be a free agent. So that's a new thing to navigate, but at least you're going to have a little bit to prep for that because you know that's coming for the most part.
Yes.
Okay, and then this is like my last question, kind of regarding Luba Sports, or I guess just agency. So one of our staff writers is actually interested in pursuing a career in becoming a sports agent. She just got her degree in sports management last week from Arizona State.
Oh, nice.
So what advice do you have for women wanting to like enter this field?
My advice would be, you want to, I mean, and this kind of goes for whether it's women or men, find an area, like become an expert in something, because even if having a sports management degree, it's helpful for sure, but you want to have something, or really, whatever it is, figure out something where you can provide a lot of value. That will really help. For me, it was like arbitration, becoming an expert in that, especially because it's an area that a lot of agencies don't know really anything about. And so my knowledge provided value, whether I might be brand new otherwise, but because I do understand this specific area that is valuable, like, it makes me an asset. So finding somewhere, again, for male or female, that just, a lot of people, again, like, they just say, I love sports, that's why I want to work in it, but like, that's not a good enough reason. So that, and then showing commitment, that you truly want to be in it. So for example, like starting, you guys have started this Ballpark Vibes, right, company,
Mm.
that shows you're not just like, oh yeah, I love sports, like this could be cool to be in this industry. Like, you're committed, you're doing something with it. Some people will, when I finished taking the bar exam, I didn't have a job. I literally started doing a random research project on setup relievers and closers, and trying to compare their value. But it was to show, whether anything comes of it or not, it's to show like you're taking it seriously and you're doing something proactively on your own to show your commitment and dedication like to the sport.
Mhm.
So I, that, and then as a female, I my biggest kind of advice is two things to remember. Like always, when you're in a room with people that you know are experienced and have a lot of knowledge, like don't be afraid to listen. Like listen. I did that for the longest time in the beginning. I would go into rooms and just I wouldn't say a word. And this was even in the beginning when I was at the union. I didn't say a word because I knew all those guys in there were so experienced and they had stuff I could learn. And so just listening was super valuable. But caveat is, as a female, once like if there's ever a situation or you're in a room, you have like if you want credibility in the industry or with your peers, you have to speak up because as a female, most like most times nobody will ever ask for your opinion or what you think of something in a room with a bunch of men. You have to just interrupt or give it, and whether it was asked or not. And that's not to like say that you should, pretend like you're an expert at everything and just, give your input. But if you have valuable input or you need to show like, hey, I'm here, you have to speak up because people might ask the other, like another guy in the room what he thinks of something, but it's very rare that someone will ever just ask the girl who's sitting there what she thinks. So if you want credibility, like you're going to have to be okay with speaking up.
Got it. That's actually really good. I really like that. Thank you so much for that advice.
Yeah.
And then this one, I heard that this is a really good story. So you're starting a podcast with Jess Kleinschmidt. How did that come about?
Momentum wanted to do they thought about doing a podcast with me just to help build my brand, and they thought I had a really unique perspective as a female and as an agent. There's again, agents don't really put themselves out there, and so I wanted a co-host because this is not my like a podcast. That whole world is not what I'm used to, and I've always like full disclosure, I hate listening to myself talk. I hate the sound of my voice because I always sound like a little kid, and so I've just never been a fan of it. So I wanted a co-host, and we were playing around with some ideas, and at this time I had started following. Probably like a month or two before I started following Jess on Twitter because she's hilarious.
Yes.
My youngest brother, who's like my best friend, they have the same personality. And so she reminded me of my brother. They have this like self-deprecating sense of humor and I loved it. And so following her was super entertaining. I'm like, I love this girl. So she was following me back. And then I think she DM'd me about something, and I told her basically just because I thought she was really funny. I was like, all right, you should come over to the Momentum House during spring training and just like come hang out if you're in Arizona. And again, just this was before even thinking about a podcast or anything. And she's like, me? Why? Like, I'm just a media person. I'm like, I don't know. She's someone that I liked, and I thought, it'd be cool. So, and, I figured she's a writer, and it would be cool for her to be able to hang around with other players and have access to them. So she came over, and we decided right before she was going to come over, Taiki, the co-founder of Momentum, brought up her name. He's like, what about her as a co-host? I'm like, yeah, I could see that, but like we don't know each other really, just through like DMs. That's it. And he was like, well, like we should try it. So I brought it up to her, and then the night she came over, they set up a podcast like little set, and they just told us to just like shoot the breeze for a little and like see if you guys vibe. And I think we talked for probably like 2 or 3 hours, and we vibed. And that was the first time we ever met, and there was definitely a chemistry there. So all of us were just like, let's do it. Let's try it. So that was kind of how it came about. But I love Jess. She's awesome.
Oh yeah, we're big fans of Jess over at Ballpark Vibe. She's one of our main mentors that we have that we always send drafts to, that we have her proofread some of our stuff. So Jess is a really great person.
She's awesome. Yeah, I love her, yeah, her sense of humor, but also like her knowledge of the game. She doesn't take herself too seriously. And we thought also, I mean, it was a good, like, there really isn't any opportunity to hear like two females talk about baseball, but from two very different sides of the industry. So yeah.
So when's this podcast coming out? Because I've been waiting since Jess told me about it.
Um, Honestly, I don't think we're trying, hopefully soon. We have like a few recorded, few episodes. We're in the bank. So the plan is soon, hopefully in the next like month or so to launch the first one. But yeah, it took a little while just with all the spring training stuff, and it was hectic. But now, like, we've got guys that work with Momentum that are focusing like solely on it. So hopefully it's kind of speeds up from here. But yeah.
Cool. Well, I think that is it for my questions that I have.
Cool. Well,
So
thanks for having me.
no problem. And then for your time, we want to go ahead and send you a Ballpark Vibes hat.
Oh, cool.
So
Thank you guys. And if you guys ever need anything, by the way, or if I can ever help or, just advice or any of that, I'm always happy to be a resource as well. So,
perfect. Cool. I think we're good then. Thank you
cool.
so much again for your time. I can't
Yeah,
wait to talk to
absolutely.
you in the future.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
No problem. Bye.